Hello everybody, this is a book haul and review. The book haul element is the Mary Beard and the review is of the Everitt. The Everitt Augustus, the Cicero I have, because I'll mention that later on as well. Effectively, I bought the Mary Beard just sometime pretty well before Christmas and happened to be flicking through it and noticed Everitt's name. So hung out and read a few pages, one or two pages of it. And it turns out the whole chapter 11 is in fact a book review of Everitt's book about Augustus. Whoops. Yeah, let's just mention some details. This was first published in 2006. I believe it was his second book, and his first book was the Cicero. And this is an English version. And the Mary Beard was published in 2013. And this is a paperback from the following year. Quite a nice thing. Let's pin that down. Whoops. Yeah, so the whole of chapter 11 is a review of a book, of that one. So is it some sort of contest? Is it a sort of strictly come academic dancing? Or some sort of gladiators academy? WWF even? Or is it an opportunity to take things further, perhaps towards a wider context, a bigger picture? Surely it couldn't be a critique and statement of historical interpretation. But this is, of course, the real world, and that is exactly what it is. So the main question, or rather the main event, is the question: to what extent does power derive from what Mary Beard calls visibility? Yeah, this kind of boomerangs in action in a moment or two. We're probably all aware of the image of Augustus. He's sat on his throne. He's a young guy. He's kind of almost godlike in a way. He's perhaps holding an orb, perhaps stretching out his arm, being all virtuous and so forth. Well, that was the image that was current right through his princeps, even to when he's an old guy, maybe does he die age 70 or in his 70s? Anyway, either way. But of course, this is a tradition making important people visible to the wider populace. This is a thing that charts back to the 2nd century BC, particularly with coins. And therefore, it's not surprising that Julius Caesar's portrait appears on coins, and then Augustus in that finest, simple style. So that particular image of Augustus was, as the Mary Beard book explains, was distributed across and throughout the entire empire, and indeed right throughout Rome itself. She says, Augustus repeatedly stamped the cityscape with his image. So, what does all this have to do with anything? Big deal, you might say, or are we supposed to think, hey, that sounds familiar? That sounds like dictators from the 20th century or the 21st century even. Well, and there's more. Mary Beard says in her book, and I quote, "We need to consider just how crucial in the establishment of the Augustan regime worldwide such images were." And that Mr. Everitt has only a few words about what is evidently, according to Mary Beard, a profound component of his reign, of the establishment of one-man rule over the next couple of 100 years. So, here is the rub. I personally thought that Everitt's Cicero was so good. It is full of enthusiasm for the subject, and thereby even imparts a sense of atmosphere and reality to contemporary life and cataclysmic events. His Augustus I did not finish, however. I felt I was too kind of bogged down in some marshy detail, if I can say that. But I was wrong to do so. Or at least I should have read subsequent or later chapters. And he says in this book, "In every community, large or small, leading men were under an obligation to him." I think that's to Augustus. And it continues, "and were usually rewarded with the gift of Roman citizenship." So this is a kind of key point as Augustus is establishing his princeps, shall we say, for now. "In every community, large or small, leading men were under an obligation to him, and were usually rewarded with the gift of Roman citizenship." Okay, so this plays well with the multiplicity of statues of Augustus at the same time, unless they follow later. But what about if the former is absent? To whatever extent. What about the visibility of the statues then? Everitt, effectively, I'm reading through it sort of earlier today, and he doesn't avoid talking about how Augustus became the autocrat of the entire Roman world, the princeps. At all. Not at all. The word princeps, in fact, appears no less than 5 times across pages 223 and 4. And I have it marked. Yeah, maybe I can just read a few short lines. "Augustus was pleased to boast, 'When I had put an end to the civil wars, having acquired supreme power over the empire with universal consent, I transferred the republic from my control into that of the Senate and people of Rome.'" Literally speaking, that was an accurate statement. That was in his own words, apparently. "The machinery of republican government came creakily back into operation, but for anyone with eyes to see the truth of the matter was obvious. The princeps admitted it himself, stating boldly, and I quote, 'After this time, I exceeded everybody in authority.' This was acceptable because Augustus held no unconstitutional or novel office. Broadly speaking, he was acting within precedent. Also, he gave back to the political class its glittering prizes. Once more, it became worthwhile to run for political office, even though the princeps tended to pre-select candidates. The ambitious and the able could win glory on the floor of the Senate or in the outposts of empire. It would be wrong to suppose that Romans failed to understand what was going on. They were not deceived. They could see that Augustus's power ultimately rested on force. However, his constitutional settlement gave him legitimacy and signalled a return to the rule of law. For this, most people were sincerely grateful. Augustus's restored republic was a towering achievement, for it transformed a bankrupt and incompetent polity into a system of government that delivered the rule of law, wide participation by the ruling class, and at the same time strong central government. It installed an autocracy with the consent of Rome's and indeed Italy's independent-minded elites. Augustus may have been less brilliant than his adoptive father, but he was wiser. He understood that for his constitutional system to last, it should be seen to grow out of what came before, rather than insist on a chasm he built a bridge. But the impression that Mary Beard leaves us is the world we are familiar with, the world of a modern day 20th century and indeed 21st century dictator, and by implication some sort of dictatorial regime. A regime that in no wise offers the hope of a golden era. We await events in China with Colosseum-like interest, perhaps. Okay, just to finish up, this is a painting of Apollo, and there appears to be a little Roman guy, just there. That little guy there is a Roman guy, and Apollo is the guy in the light, in the chariot. Okay, so there's my little review of some very popular and very widely read books, as I understand it. The Anthony Everitt I've seen on people's shelves in BookTube and reviewed, I think, on multiple occasions. And obviously Mary Beard is pretty popular. Hopefully that provides a little another level. So that's it, and bye for now.